أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من اللعين الغوي الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين والحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الميامين المهديين المقتولين ولعنة الله دائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من يوم عداوتهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقال الله تعالى في كتابه المجيد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. وصلوا على محمد وآل محمد. The ayat from Surah Al-Shams describe the story of the human soul, the journey of the human soul, in the way it has been fashioned. And it has two options. It can either grow, expand, or it can shrink. قَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. That there's two paths in our life. The path of success and the path of failure. What we will see tonight are two examples of this. Example number one: قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. One is growth, progression towards qurba ilallah, qurbatan ilallah, towards that point of being closer to Allah, al-qurba lillahi. And one is regression. One is towards light, and the other one is towards darkness, dhulumat. And we arrive at points in our life where we have to contemplate the road that we wish to take. And what we impart to our children will give them the capacity to be able to take one road or the other. It'll give them the ability to make the choice. The ability to decide in that moment, do I want my soul to expand or do I want my soul to shrink? Do I want to be a winner? قَدْ أَفْلَحَ. Do I want to be among those that are successful? Or do I want to be among those that are at a loss? قَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. The Quran often brings us two images together and then transposes them so that we look at them in comparison to one another. And what did Baneen salamullahi alayha impart to her son Abbas alayhi salam, Abi Fadl Abbas? We read in a poem, in her poem, when she found out that her sons were murdered, were killed in Karbala, became shuhada. She began to recite the following words, and she said, Ya man ra'al Abbas qarra ala jamahir naqad. O he who saw Abbas, salamullahi alayhi, attacking the throngs of the hypocrites. The son that is doing taskiyat of his nafs, as he's attacking the hypocrites, and protecting his imam. وَوَرَاهُ مِنْ أَبْنَاءِ حَيْدَرْ كُلُّ لَيْثِ اللَّبَدْ. And behind my son were the children of Haydar. And every lion possesses a seventh vulture. This refers to the seventh vulture which ended the life of Luqman. That every lion must meet death, and my son is a lion and he has met his death, but he met his death while the sons of Ali were behind him. That ultimately, the success of my son was met in fulfilling the purpose of his life. This is the words of Baneen herself. أُنْبِئْتُ أَنَّ إِبْنِي أُصِيبَ بِرَأْسِي مَقْطُوعَ يَدٍ. And she says that I have been informed that my son was struck on his head with his hand cut. She says, وَيْلِي عَلَى شِبْلِي. Woe, my anguish for my lion cub, for my little lion, my young brave lion. آمَالُ بِرَأْسِهِ دَرْبُ الْعَمَدِ. Because whatever hopes he had on his head were broken with a rod. This is the words of a mother mourning for her child. She says, لو كان سيفك في يديك. But if only, O my son, you had your sword in your hand. لما دنا منه أحد. No one would have approached Hussein ibn Ali on that day. Why? Because she imparted to him the purpose of his existence in this world. And when she's reciting these lines after being informed of the death of her children, and there's four more lines I'll recite at the end tonight. This is a eulogy of a mother for her child. Would we have a eulogy like this for our child? What kind of eulogy would we recite if our child dies tomorrow? Our baligh child, our baligha child. Just think about who is Baneen. What does it take for a mother to utter these kinds of words? It is incredible. And we read in the ahadith some incredible things. Incredible things. That when he entered the mashra', when he entered the battlefield, subhanallah, and he went towards the water. Some riwayat don't even say he even put his hand in the water. He wouldn't, some riwayats. But looked at it. Had 4,000 soldiers, according to some historical traditions, at least in the thousands, blocking him. Think about the courage and the shuja'at of this man. Allahu Akbar. All of this for a bag of water. A bag of water. Pirba. Think about it. Arrows and spears landing on his body, one after the other, one after the other. Just for a bag of water for his Mawla Hussein ibn Ali and his children. Look at this meaning of the Qimmatul Wafa. The meaning of loyalty to your Imam. And that mother on that day, Salamullahi alayha, is commemorating the life of her son. And then we understand the kalam of Imam al-Hussein, al-an inkasara dhahri wa qillat hilati. That my back was broken. Who would do this for a bag of water with 4,000 soldiers between him and Khaymat al-Hussein, the tent of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam? One hand cut, the other hand cut, still holding the khirba in all the historical sources. Arrows fired into his eyes. Falling off of his horse. Can you imagine the moment falling off of his horse? And all you hear is, Ya Habiba, wa Abasa, wa Abasa, wa Qurrata Ayna. Wafa, loyalty. Think about it, mu'mineen, mu'minat. What kind of mother was this? Allahu Akbar. She's eulogizing her son in the city of Medina. Do you know why the hands of Abbas salamullahi alayhi are so special? We read in the riwayah, Fil Asrar Darbandi, who narrates from some of the Arbab al-Maqatil. This is narrated by our great scholars. One of them is from Najaf al-Ashraf al-Amazanjani, from Najaf al-Ashraf. It's narrated, أنه إذا كان يوم القيامة واشتد الأمر على الناس, that the day of judgment will come, and this situation will be very difficult for the people. اشتد الأمر على الناس. Situation will be very difficult, mu'mineen. And then Rasulullah will send Amir al-Mu'mineen ila Fatima. So who do we go to now but Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha? That when the affair reaches its peak point on the day of judgment, the most peak point of difficulty, ba'atha Rasulullah Amir al-Mu'mineen ila Fatima salamullahi alayha. Rasulullah Khuda sends Amir al-Mu'mineen to Fatima. لِتَحْدِرْ مَقَامِ الشَّفَاعَةِ, so that she shall come to the place where she will give intercession to the people. فَيَقُولُ أَمِيرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَا فَاطِمَةَ, and Amir al-Mu'mineen says to Sayyidah Zahra, مَا عِنْدِكْ مِنْ أَسْبَابِ الشَّفَاعَةِ, what do you have today from the means of intercession for the people? وَمَا أَدَخَرْتِ لِأَجْلِ هَذَا الْيَوْمِ, and what have you prepared special for this day? This day of great fear, trembling on the day of judgment. Remember, we said this is when the affair becomes very difficult on the day of judgment. اشتد الأمر على الناس. تقول فاطمة يا أمير المؤمنين, and the Sayyidah Zahra says to Amir al-Mu'mineen, كفانا لأجل هذا المقام اليدان مقطوعتان. That today, for us, sufficient are the two hands of my son Abbas salamullahi alayhi. Yadan maqtu'atan min ibn Abbas. Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha is saying Abbas is her son. Can you imagine? That on that day, the two chopped hands, cut off hands of our Mawla Abbas, salamullahi, Abi Fadl al-Abbas, Bab al-Hawa'ij. Those two hands will be enough on the day of judgment, inshallah. And they will be the asbab and the means of the intercession used by Fatima Zahra, salamullahi alayha. And here Baneen is saying, and I know that my son's hands were cut while the hopes were on his head. Meaning he had high hopes for what he wanted to achieve for his Mawla Hussein. But in the midst of those high hopes, he returned with cut hands and a cut body. And Allah will reward him and everyone who loves him through the intercession of Sayyidah Zahra, inshallah, fi yawm al-qiyamah. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Did you know that Baneen, for how many of you know this, I'm not sure, but, and see what I'm bringing here is an example of the soul reaching Allah, for the soul evolving, the soul growing. through sacrifice. Baneen, when she entered the home of Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullahi alayhi, in those days, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, Sayyidah Zainab were very young. Do you know why she became Baneen? One of the reasons why she took the name Baneen? Because her name is Fatima. Because it was said that every time the Amir al-Mu'mineen would address her as Fatima, the children would remember their mother Fatima. And no one's name as Fatima could be elevated above that Fatima. So she decided for her not to be named Fatima anymore, out of the respect and the love for these children. Look at the humility. Entering a house, this is before they had Abbas, salamullahi alayhi. She knew that even if she had her own children, which she did have 4 with Amir al-Mu'mineen, 4 sons, even if she did, they would never be close to the status of Hassan and Hussein, salamullahi alayhima. Why? Because it was in her lifetime that Amir al-Mu'mineen told Muhammad bin Hanafiya that you are my son. وَلَكِنْ حَسَنًا وَحُسَيْنًا مِنْ إِبْنِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ. But Hassan and Hussein are the sons of the Messenger of Allah. So Muhammad, you are my son. But these 2 boys are the sons of Rasulullah. And thus you cannot be compared to Hassan and Hussein. And thus the children of Baneen could never be compared to Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein alayhi salam. It's not possible. And the humility in their hearts to understand this, to submit with taslim to their Imam, even if their Imam was close in age to them, even if they grew up with their Imam, yet they submitted to their Imam with complete taslim. Even if technically they were brothers, yes, they are brothers, no doubt. Not technically, they are brothers. But even that relationship is not like normal brothers. One is master, one is servant. And they never resented that. Muhammad bin Hanafiya, Abbas ibn Ali, Ja'far ibn Ali, Uthman ibn Ali, Abdullah ibn Ali, the children of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Baneen. They never resented it. We never find an instance of any resentment among them, of feeling lack of attention or lack of this or lack of that. No. This is the Imam. He is our master. Whether he's our brother or not is immaterial. First relationship is he's the Imam. At the time of Imam al-Hassan as the Imam, and then the time of Imam al-Hussein alayhim as-salam. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. And Baneen understood the position of wilayah of Ahlul Bayt. She surrendered herself to that divine position, to that divinely appointed position at the very beginning. She understood that. And with Amir al-Mu'mineen, they raised 4 beautiful sons. Abbas was 34, Abdullah was 25, Uthman was 24, and Ja'far was 19. And she lived to about the age of 55, approximately, herself. And then, unfortunately, we also have the example of the failed soul. These are examples of souls that are successful, souls that realize their purpose in their life and excel and grow and prosper. And then there's examples of souls that are stunted, that don't grow, that don't prosper. And now we'll get to that as well. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Because ultimately, as Allah says in the Quran, يَوْمَ تُبْلَى السَّرَائِرُ. in Surah Tariq, that on that day all the secrets will be let out. Some people achieve that in this world, like the sons of Baneen and Baneen herself. And for some, they have to wait till the Day of Judgment in order to see what is the nature of their intention, what is the nature of their aqeedah. Everything that is within will come out. Tubla al-sara'ir. Nothing will be hidden. And that's why the Prophet says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, if we knew of this reality, we would cry a lot and laugh a little. If only we understood the reality of this unveiling on the Day of Judgment. And we read in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَلِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَإِن تُبْدُوا مَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ وَتَخْفُوهُ يُحَاسِبْكُمْ بِهِ اللَّهُ. That to God belongs everything that is in the heavens and the earth, and on that day, whether you reveal something of yourself or you hide something, يُحَاسِبْكُمْ بِهِ اللَّهُ. Allah will bring you to your hisab. It doesn't matter, Allah is saying. What we hide or what we conceal in this world, our hisab is with Allah Azza wa Jal. يُحَاسِبْكُمْ بِهِ اللَّهُ وَيَغْفِرْ لِمَن يَشَاءُ وَيُعَذِّبُ مَن يَشَاءُ. And He will forgive whom He wishes and He will punish whom He wishes. وَاللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. That either we grow or we don't. We can hide our intentions in this world. Now for some, it's made plain. Like those people that give their lives for haqq, for truth. But for the vast majority of people, all we can say is, وَمَا نَعْلَمُ مِنْهُ إِلَّا خَيْرًا. We don't know anything except for good. Why do we say that? Because يُحَاسِبُكُمْ بِهِ Allah. Allah is going to do the hisab. Not me and not you. No one's hisab is upon us to do. يُحَاسِبُكُمْ بِهِ Allah. We just say, وَمَا نَعْلَمُ مِنْهُ إِلَّا خَيْرًا. We don't know anything but good when we're doing the janazah, salatul janazah, salatul mayyit. And that's why Imam as-Sadiq says, Salamullahi alayhi, it's not the amount of deeds that we do, but aswabakum, the most correct that we do, with the best intentions that we do. Allah is not going to judge us on the amount, but on the correctness of them. Or is it done on the foundation of iman and belief and good intention, or is it not done on that foundation? That's the thing. And we see, unfortunately, in Islamic history, there are people that think that they can run away from this reality. And they play games with the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they end up selling it in a way, using it and for their own purposes. As we read in Surah Tawbah, اشتروا بآيات الله ثمنا قليلا, and they sell it for a cheap price even. قليلا فصدوا عن سبيله, and then they block others from His path. إنهم ساء ما كانوا يعملون, and evil is what they do. So who am I referring to? This is قد خاب من دساها. This is the person who only shrinks. They don't grow in this world. His name is Umar ibn Sa'ad. One individual, the son of Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, who was a companion of the Prophet, his father. Even before the 5 salat became wajib, Sa'ad was already a companion of the Prophet, his father. And according to other madhahib, he's promised Jannat. according to others. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Funny thing, if you look at the life of his father, Sa'ad, whenever it came to the haqq of Ahlul Bayt, somehow he was missing from the scene. But whenever it came to the haqq of the first three leaders, he was on the scene and present. It's so convenient. Like at the Shura, for example, when it came time after the death of Umar to appoint the third Khalifa of the Muslims, Sa'ad voted for Uthman, not for Amir al-Mu'mineen. And in fact, he consistently implied that Amir al-Mu'mineen was incorrect on many occasions. But it said that وَجَبَتْ لَهُ Jannah, or that he's one of those that have been promised by the Rasulullah, by the Messenger of Allah, to go to heaven. That's his father anyhow. Yet he believed Ali committed a grave sin. So Ali is qasim bain al-Jannah wal nar. He's the divider of heaven and hell, and the one who believed he committed a great sin is promised heaven. I don't even know how this will work, but it's all a little confusing to figure out. It's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? So the son is given this ultimate tarbiyat, right? So we have the tarbiyat of Abu Fadl Abbas, Ja'far, Abdullah, under the hand of Baneen and al-Mu'mineen, and now we have the tarbiyah of Umar ibn Sa'ad. Similar age to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. They grew up in the same environment, you could say the same streets. Their fathers knew each other very well. Sa'ad was elder. Slightly elder, I would say, yes. He is, for sure. Yeah, elder. They grew up together. At least his grandfather grew up with him. Or his father, rather, Amir al-Mu'mineen. But what happened to Umar ibn Sa'ad? I mean, if you look at the life of Imam al-Hussein, the life of Umar ibn Sa'ad, the life of Abbas and the life of Umar ibn Sa'ad, what happened? Because if you think about it, they grew up in the same environment. They grew up with the same information, right, given to them. Abbas grew up in the same environment, Medina, this environment, the Islamic empire. They knew the reality of the Quran. Well, let's go to the first test here. In the city of Kufa, Muslim ibn Aqil is now about to be executed. I don't know how many of you know this. Do you know who was present with Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad? Umar ibn Sa'ad. Umar ibn Sa'ad was accompanying Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad there. Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad leaves the room. Muslim asks Umar ibn Sa'ad for two things. One, to fulfill his debts. Two, to inform Hussein that the situation in Kufa has changed. Because there was a family connection between the family of Aqil and Umar ibn Sa'ad. They're cousins. I don't know how many of you know, there's a connection between the family of Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas and Muslim ibn Aqil and his father. They have qaraba. So Muslim and Umar ibn Sa'ad promised. So yeah, because he says, by the haqq of our relationship, fulfill this for me. At least just deliver the news to Hussein, salamullahi alayhi, that the situation in Kufa has changed dramatically. He leaves the room. Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad comes up to Umar ibn Sa'ad. And he tells him, ماذا أخبرك Muslim? What did Muslim tell you? And with a straight face, he just told him. Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad says, as for paying the debts, could care less. As for informing Hussein, there's no way we're doing it. What a snake. don't know what other word to use. I don't know what other word to, it's so stealthy, it's so, and then of course they went ahead and they executed Muslim. A dying man. If you could betray a dying man's wishes, you could betray anybody, anything. You are up for sale. He made a decision. And he made decisions before this as well. He now arrives in the city in Karbala. He resettles his troops. He gets off his horse. Brothers, this is so disturbing. Umar ibn Sa'd gets off his horse. He rallies the troops of the Umayyad forces. And he tells them, أَلَا تَرَوْنَ الْحَقْ لَا يَعْمَلُ بِي. He says, O troops, do you not see that the haqq, the truth, is not being acted upon? وَالْبَاطِلْ لَا يَتَنَاهَى عَنْ. And that which is wrong is not being prevented. وَلِيَرْغَبَ الْمُؤْمِنْ فِي لِقَاءِ اللَّهِ. So that the mu'min wishes to meet Allah. Because Hussein is not fulfilling the truth, and he is preventing that which is batil. Or Hussein is, look at how he uses the words batil and haq here. It's mind-boggling. He's rallying his troops on 3 points. Point number 1 is Hussein salamullahi alayhi na'udhu billah, that we are here to fight the grandson of the Prophet so that truth may prevail. We are here, he is saying, Umar ibn Sa'd is saying, we are here to fight the grandson of the Prophet because batil and falsehood is not being stopped. Because Hussein, for him, is the meaning of falsehood. This is the man that just admitted he has qaraba with Muslim ibn Aqil in Kufa. Talk about some kind of ghurur, of complete delusion. Number 3, if you want to meet God, then join me in the quest, he's saying, to kill Hussein. Almost sounds like some modern terrorist, doesn't it? How do terrorists justify their action, their terror? They use words that sound like haqq and implement them for batil. Isn't it? They use words that sound true and implement it to perpetrate their crimes. This is nothing new in Islam, or in history, human history, in Islamic history, I mean, and human history in general. Religion can be misused by anybody. That is why you and I must know what our fundamental beliefs are. The people should know, wait a second, would Hussein be on the wrong path? Is that even possible? Is it possible that I could meet Allah, that I will seek a meeting with Allah, seek Jannat with Allah, in Allah's qurba and closeness to His divine presence, through the killing of Hussein? But that would require someone to have a mind. It would require someone to use their aql, to at least contemplate for a single moment. But Umar ibn Sa'd knew exactly what he was doing. He knew if you say the right slogans, pump up the troops, get them all riled up, they'll do anything for you. No wonder they would trample his body. No wonder they would kill his children. No wonder they would do all of these things. 1, out of their own psychopathy, but 2, perhaps they were led to believe And this is their own fault for believing and for doing such things. They were led to believe somehow that this act of starving them, or rather rendering them thirsty, and all of this is for Allah. This is where religion, when it's in the wrong hands, can be used as a very destructive weapon to hurt people, to really hurt people. And in fact, according to some traditions, Umar ibn Sa'd was asked, Hussein has not come loaded for war. What's wrong with you, man? He doesn't look like he's a man ready for battle. He's here with his kids, his wife, his wives, his children. He doesn't even have all the armaments like that we have ready. Just a small point to overlook. You see, when someone is so deluded in these situations, these are fasiq sometimes, these are people, the outright sinners, right? Their hearts have been filled with so much darkness that these just become minor issues. Oh yeah, Hussein doesn't have weapons, but forget it. Because the mind shuts off. It can't think anymore for itself. It can't think critically. According to what would Ahlul Bayt want from me? What has Ahlul Bayt taught me? What has the Quran taught me? Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. And what makes matters worse or adds insult to injury is the following, mu'mineen. Abu Abdullah offers Umar ibn Sa'd several options, as we know. I don't want to go through all the history. To go off to the frontiers, let them go. Or let me just go to Yazid in Sham to see what plays out. Or to go to the frontiers of the Muslim empire. Or just let us leave from where we have come. Let's just forget this matter. Umar ibn Sa'd accepts these three options and writes back to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad now writes back to Umar ibn Sa'd, basically saying that nothing will be accepted that there will be no honor until Hussein accepts this. But meanwhile, Umar ibn Sa'd continues to talk to Hussein, salamullahi alayhi. This is the crafty part. This is what I mean by selling your soul completely. The riwayat and the history books tell us that he continued to try to lead Imam al-Hussein on that somehow they will find an agreement to this. Meanwhile, while he was meeting with Imam al-Hussein to try to find a way out of this, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad writes a letter to him. It arrives on the battlefield, basically saying that we have our eyes on you. It has been brought to our attention that you are meeting with Hussein in private. And if you let him go, it is on you for whatever happens. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad writes back, if you give me Ray, which is the province of Tehran, South Tehran, I'll do what you want me to do. All the while, he's pretending with Imam al-Hussein that he's going to make peace with him. Look at this, the height of deception and trickery. With Muslim and now with Abu Abdullah. Meanwhile, claiming, we have closeness to Bani Hashim, right? Even offering, right, to Abu Fadl al-Abbas some kind of peace and some kind of agreement. Or we have some relations. Yeah. It's words. This is the meaning of hypocrisy. This is like the ultimate definition of nifaq. And can you imagine, we read honest truth. Well, not that it would be anything but that. Just saying that for the, as a kind of hyperbole. In the books of Rijal, where they evaluate the narrators of hadith, one of them is a book called Mizanul I'tidal by an author by the name of Dhahabi, very famous author of the narrators of hadith, the biographies of the narrators of hadith for the other Muslims, for Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. In this book, under the name Umar ibn Sa'ad, what is written? Huwa thiqa, walakin bashara biqatl al-Husayn. That he's trustworthy, but participated in the killing of Hussein. But he's not to blame for this. There's no, and people narrate from him, وَهُوَ الثِّقَةِ, he is trustworthy. Really? Umar ibn Sa'ad is thiqa? I mean, this is where, if Umar ibn Sa'ad's hadith is accepted as being as a trustworthy narrator, then really I don't know who can't be accepted. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. And we read that on the day of Ashura, Umar ibn Sa'ad is now given his title, or the promise of his title, which he never claimed. Do you know what he did? On the day of Ashura, we read that he takes out an arrow from his holder. Man, this is the person that said they wanted to make peace with Hussein, right? Salamullahi alayhi. فَرَمَّ بِيَ الْحُسَيْنِ فَوَقَعَ فِي نَحْرِهِ. And he takes out an arrow and fires it into the throat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The very same person who says, oh yeah, let's work on peace. He sold his soul to the devil. And the price for that would be the arrow in the throat of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Hussein takes the blood from his throat and he wipes his beard and his chest. Allahu Akbar. Umar ibn Sa'ad yells at his troops, وَنَادَ Umar ibn Sa'ad. Imagine this, brothers. Imagine this moment. Umar ibn Sa'ad yells at his troops. He says, whoever hates Hussein, trample him with your horses now. That he not only wanted to kill Hussein now, but he says, whoever has anger towards Hussein, whoever has a bone to pick with Hussein, I give you a blank check to do what you want now. And 10 of them just began to trample Hussein. He's saying, whoever has an axe to grind with Hussein, now take your anger out on the body of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. That same man that betrayed Muslim now takes the women to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. And they enter Kufa, as we read, on the 12th of Muharram. Meaning these women would have had to spend consecutive nights in the presence of these filthy dhalims. And we read that when Zainab bint Ali salamullahi alayha enters the court of Ibn Ziyad, Ibn Ziyad begins to curse her over and over again. He begins to swear at her. He begins to praise Allah for the murder and the killing of Hussein ibn Ali. And the riwayat state that that was one of the only times that Zainab began to cry. After, meaning in the court itself. That she had tears in her eyes as she remembered her brother Hussein in the court of Ibn Ziyad. Not to say she did not cry before, she cried, of course. I'm talking about in front of Ibn Ziyad. Who will pay for the tears of Zainab bint Ali? Who will pay the price for that? We read that when Ahlul Haram returned to Medina, Bashir enters the city of Medina, Mu'mineen. And Ahlul Haram have now returned. He comes up to Baneen, as Alama Maqani narrates in Tanqiyul Maqal. Baneen now asks him, Akhbirni an Abi Abdullah. Give me the news of Imam al-Hussein. Subhanallah. She doesn't say, give me the news of my sons. She says, give me the news of Hussein. He then gives her the news that her 4 sons have died. And that Hussein has been martyred. She says, قَدْ قُطِعَتْ نِيَاتِ قَلْبِي قُطِعَتْ نِيَاتِ قَلْبِي, that the strings of my heart are broken. But she says, كُلُّهُمْ فِدَى لِأَبِي عَبْدِ اللَّهِ. All of them were given as a fida and a qurbani and a sacrifice to our Mawla, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Look at the love, Hussein salamullahi alayhi. Look at the love, look at the intensity of this love. Then she goes to Baqi and she says, لا تدعوني Wake Ummul Baneen, do not call me Ummul Baneen anymore. تذكريني باليوث العرين, because I was known as the den that kept the lions inside. كانت بنون لي أدعى بهم, because I had children. I was known by them. ولكن واليوم أصبحت ولا من بنيني, but today I woken up and I have no more sons, I have no more children. لا من بنيني, I have no more kids, so do not call me Baneen anymore. I don't deserve the title Baneen anymore, because my sons are all gone. Where are my sons? I'm the of whom? The mother of whom now? There were 4, like 100 eagles. قد واصلوا الموت بقتل وتيني, but each of them met their death, having their jugular veins severed. تنازل الخرسان أشلاءهم, and the spears competed to enter their body one by one. This is a reference that when they killed them, they had the spears land upon them like rain. وَكُلُّهُمْ أَمْسَى سَرِيعًا تَعِينِي, and every one of them fell on the battlefield. But she says, if only I knew what happened to my Abbas. If only I knew what happened to my Abbas. بأن العباس قطيع اليمين, because I know my Abbas had his right hand cut. The riwayat state that the people went into tears when they heard the crying of Baneen, the poem of Baneen. Some riwayat state that even Marwan had tears in his eyes. The coward Marwan. لعنة الله عليكم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. ماتم حسين.